Meghan?
Well, because she posed a challenge to the royal family, and she's a fascinating person. I mean, she's a person who started from nothing and has become a world global star.
In the quiet corridors of royal commentary, a storm is quietly building. Veteran royal watcher Lady C and investigative biographer Tom Bower have reportedly ignited a controversy that could shake one of the most debated stories surrounding Meghan. Whispers of a hidden surrogacy claim are now colliding with threats of legal action, turning speculation into a dramatic public clash. Supporters are stunned, critics are energized, and the internet is already erupting with theories. But what did these two insiders reveal to spark such a response? The lawsuit that could open every royal secret. A quiet legal threat has suddenly turned into something far larger than anyone expected. What was meant to silence critics may have triggered the exact storm it hoped to avoid. When lawyers connected to Meghan Markle began warning outspoken commentators to back down, they appeared confident that pressure and legal language would force a retreat. But the targets of those warnings were not easily intimidated voices. They were Lady Colin Campbell, a royal insider who has spent decades studying palace history, and Tom Bower, an investigative writer famous for dismantling powerful reputations with carefully gathered documents. Instead of stepping away, both figures reacted with remarkable calm. Lady Colin Campbell looked straight into the camera during a discussion and delivered a response so brief it stunned many observers. "Let him sue me." 4 simple words, yet they carried the confidence of someone who believes the evidence speaks louder than any threat. Behind that calm reaction lies a complicated issue that has quietly hovered around the Sussex story for years. Rumors, denials, and fierce legal defenses have surrounded questions about timelines, hospital visits, and private decisions connected to the birth of the Sussex children. According to Bower, investigations by his research team included inquiries at medical facilities both in London and in California. What they reportedly discovered, or more precisely, what records they could not locate, has raised eyebrows among insiders who follow royal matters closely. The real danger for Prince Harry and his wife may not be criticism itself, but the legal mechanism that follows if a defamation case is actually filed. In court, a process called discovery begins. It is a phase where both sides gain the legal right to demand documents, communications, and records relevant to the dispute. Privacy walls that normally protect personal matters can suddenly become fragile. Legal experts say discovery is when lawsuits shift from headlines to evidence. Emails, birth certificates, hospital logs, and internal messages can all be requested and reviewed, potentially becoming public record. Critics suggest this is exactly the scenario Lady Colin Campbell and Tom Bower might face. Years of research, interviews, and archived materials could gain a legal pathway into open examination, reportedly sparking nervous conversations behind palace doors, where advisors know how unpredictable trials can be. The Sussex narrative has long focused on victimhood and media attacks, but if the dispute reaches court, some observers believe the balance could shift. Instead of silencing critics, a lawsuit may invite scrutiny into events once thought private. And that is why one question now hangs over the entire controversy. If proving the truth could end the speculation, why has the simplest test of all remained off the table? A lawsuit once dismissed as trivial now demands Meghan Markle's answers under oath, raising questions the public has never heard before. How did a family dispute escalate into a courtroom battle with far-reaching consequences? The questions Meghan cannot ignore. A legal battle once brushed aside as absurd is now quietly moving toward a courtroom spotlight, and the implications could reach far beyond a family dispute. By July, a judge had ordered formal depositions in the lawsuit brought by Samantha Markle against her half-sister, Meghan Markle. For years, the Duchess's legal team dismissed the case as unworthy of attention. Yet the same case is now compelling Meghan to answer detailed questions under oath, questions she has never publicly faced before. When the trial is expected to open in October, the matter may no longer revolve around reputation alone, but around proof. Samantha's complaint challenges several stories that became widely repeated after Meghan's engagement to Prince Harry in 2017. One of the most disputed claims involves Samantha's surname. Meghan suggested her sister only adopted the Markle name once the royal engagement brought global attention. Samantha insists that statement is false and says it forms part of a pattern she believes misrepresents their family history. She also disputes the dramatic tale of a battered old Ford Explorer in which Meghan supposedly had to climb through the boot to enter the car. According to Samantha, that story too simply does not match reality. The upcoming courtroom testimony is significant because legal questioning demands more than storytelling. Depositions require precise, evidence-backed answers. In court, recollections are scrutinized, documents requested, and every claim tested. Hovering over this unfolding drama are two authors whose work has already stirred controversy: Lady Colin Campbell and Tom Bower. Campbell has spent decades writing about the British royal family, drawing on deep aristocratic sources. Bower is known across Britain for his relentless investigative style, exemplified in Revenge, which examined the rise of the Sussexes with rare intensity. Bower often focuses on powerful figures who guard their private lives. During his research, he reportedly contacted many who once knew Meghan. Some declined, but others responded, including her father, who said that despite disagreements, she remains his daughter. At the same time, Campbell began hearing rumors she initially dismissed as the territory of conspiracy theorists. Curiosity eventually led researchers connected to Bower's project to examine two hospitals frequently linked to the births of the Sussex children: Portland Hospital and Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital. Investigators searched for typical documentation that accompanies major medical events: records, confirmations, administrative traces. According to Bower's account, the search produced little certainty. Campbell has hinted that former staff members and witnesses may eventually provide clarity about those timelines. Whether those claims withstand scrutiny remains unknown, but with depositions approaching and testimony expected later this year, one truth is clear: the questions that once echoed only in interviews and books may soon be asked inside a courtroom where every answer carries weight. Lady C initially dismissed the whispers of Meghan's pregnancy as mere fantasy, yet persistent calls and palace murmurs hinted at a deeper story. What made her shift from doubt to scrutiny, and how did tradition collide with unexpected royal developments? The questions the palace never answered. Lady C was not among those who first believed the whispers. When talk about Meghan's pregnancy began circulating in late 2018, she brushed it aside. To her, the idea sounded like another internet fantasy, too dramatic and too reckless to take seriously. But the calls kept coming. Journalists wanted her opinion. Quiet messages from palace watchers hinted that even inside royal circles, some people were uneasy. Gradually, curiosity replaced dismissal, and she began to look more closely at what had unfolded in full public view. For generations, royal births in London followed a clear tradition designed to prevent exactly this kind of uncertainty. Hospitals such as St. Mary's in Paddington became famous for their transparency. Doctors' names were announced, consultants were identified, official bulletins were posted so the public could trust what they were told. The system was simple. Openness protected the monarchy from doubt. When Archie arrived in May 2019, something felt different. There were no named doctors, no familiar hospital steps, no immediate medical confirmation, only an unusual silence that left questions growing. Observers compared what they saw with royal history, and uncertainty spread. Discussions began quietly, then professionals spoke privately. A retired maternity nurse with 30 years' experience said she had never seen a pregnancy behave so unpredictably. Another former midwife agreed. Photographs taken days apart showed varying shapes and sizes. Some seemed normal, while others looked oddly altered, fueling further speculation. One particular evening drew attention: the British Fashion Awards in London. Throughout the event, Meghan repeatedly held her stomach with both hands. Medical professionals watching the footage later said the gesture looked less like a casual pose and more like someone steadying something in place. That observation alone did not prove anything. But when combined with the changing appearance of the bump in photographs, speculation began spreading far beyond internet forums. Lady C insists the issue was never meant to be cruel toward the children themselves. In fact, she argues the opposite. According to her view, the uncertainty is unfair to them, to the royal family, and to the public whose monarchy relies on trust. The matter touches on more than curiosity. It concerns the line of succession and the traditions meant to protect it. From her perspective, the solution is simple. If everything happened exactly as presented, clear confirmation would end the debate instantly. A straightforward explanation, the kind that had always accompanied royal births in the past, could close the door on every rumor. Until that moment arrives, the unanswered details from 2019 continue to hover over the story. Quiet questions lingering where transparency once stood. Years before the world met one of the most talked-about royal babies, whispered conversations at Clarence House hinted at tensions beneath the surface. But what exactly unfolded during these private family talks? And how did early choices shape the path that would later captivate the globe? Shadows behind the royal cradle. A strange pattern of whispers and raised eyebrows followed the story long before the world ever saw the child who would later become one of the most talked-about royal babies of the modern era. In the grand corridors of Clarence House in London, a quiet conversation reportedly took place years earlier, sometime around 2017, when the relationship between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle was still fresh and full of excitement. According to accounts later shared by insiders, Harry sat with his father, then Charles III, and Queen Camilla during a relaxed family discussion about the future. During the light-hearted exchange, Camilla jokingly imagined what a future child might look like, perhaps brown-skinned, with Harry's unmistakable ginger hair. Everyone in the room reportedly laughed, including Harry himself. At the time, the remark seemed harmless, the kind of playful speculation families often make about future children. Yet years later, the moment would be pulled into a completely different narrative, sparking debates that echoed far beyond palace walls. While that conversation faded into the background, other puzzling moments quietly gathered attention. Observers who followed Meghan's public appearances during her pregnancy began pointing out unusual details. One moment frequently discussed involved a visit to a charity event where she wore a striking purple dress paired with a bright red coat. Photographs taken as she arrived appeared to show her baby bump sitting high and rounded, yet images captured as she exited the same meeting in the same outfit seemed to reveal a noticeably different shape and position. Another detail that fascinated onlookers was a brief moment caught on camera during a walkabout. Meghan bent deeply at the knees in high heels, lowering herself smoothly into a squat while keeping her legs together, something several midwives later claimed would be extremely difficult during the later months of pregnancy. Though such comments remained opinions rather than proof, the footage spread quickly across social media and discussion forums. Questions multiplied when the official birth announcements appeared in May 2019 after the arrival of Archie Mountbatten Windsor. Some language experts noticed a curious phrasing. The child was described as being born for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. To many readers, it seemed like a minor wording choice, but others argued the phrase was unusual. Traditionally, children are said to be born to their parents. In formal English, being born for someone can sometimes suggest a different arrangement. Meanwhile, investigative author Tom Bower began examining the timeline surrounding the birth. Reports suggested that when inquiries were made at hospitals often linked to royal deliveries, no clear confirmation emerged tying the couple directly to a specific maternity ward. Adding another layer to the story was the decision to introduce the newborn to the world through an exclusive American television broadcast, an unusual move for a royal moment that had traditionally belonged to British media. The broadcast aired through CBS, a network known to have connections with Oprah Winfrey, who was already in early discussions with the couple about future projects. To critics, the sequence of events felt carefully staged. To supporters, it was simply a modern couple choosing their own path. Yet as debates continued to swirl between palace tradition and personal freedom, one thing became undeniable. The story surrounding this royal birth had transformed into one of the most mysterious chapters in recent royal history. Tom Bower exposed a shocking truth about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's Netflix deal, revealing stakes beyond money. But what exactly did they risk? And how did ambition challenge their privacy, credibility, and dignity? The price of the spotlight. Tom Bower leaned slightly forward during the interview and asked a question that cut straight to the heart of the matter. Were Prince Harry and Meghan Markle beginning to understand what they had truly given up when they accepted the enormous Netflix deal? His answer came just as quickly. In his view, the real cost was not simply privacy, it was credibility, and perhaps even dignity. But the situation, he explained, looked very different from the couple's perspective. Money had become a pressing concern. Without the steady financial support that once came from royal duties, the Sussexes needed income, and the media projects they signed, especially the Netflix contract and Harry's memoir, became their primary lifeline. Whether critics approved or not mattered far less than the fact that these deals kept the revenue flowing. In Bauer's blunt assessment, they had little choice but to continue. By 2020, after their move to Montecito, California, the strategy seemed clear. Their public image had become part of a carefully constructed brand. Streaming platforms, documentaries, interviews, each appearance helped keep their story in the spotlight. Privacy, critics argued, was no longer a guiding principle. Instead, it had turned into something that could be packaged and sold. Yet one small moment from years earlier still echoes loudly among royal watchers. In May 2019, shortly after the birth of their son Archie, Harry and Meghan appeared briefly before cameras near the grounds of Windsor. Harry spoke warmly about how quickly his newborn had changed in just 2 weeks. Standing beside him, Meghan quietly corrected the detail. The baby, she said, was only 2 days old. The exchange was brief, almost casual, but it sparked questions that many observers felt were never fully answered. Behind the scenes today, tension reportedly runs high. Sources close to the couple describe Harry as restless and frustrated, often staying awake late into the night, scrolling through articles and watching videos that analyze every public photograph of his family. The scrutiny has become relentless, and each new theory seems to push the controversy further. Some critics argue that Harry's complicated relationship with the media began long before these recent disputes. The tragic death of his mother, Princess Diana, in 1997, left deep scars. Over the years, Harry has repeatedly blamed press intrusion for the events that led to the crash in Paris. Others, including certain commentators, dismiss that view entirely, claiming his anger toward the press has shaped many of his decisions. Meanwhile, the conflict continues to escalate. Reports suggest Harry's lawyers have considered legal action against both Lady Colin Campbell and Tom Bauer for their public comments. Lady C's response, however, surprised many. Calm and unwavering, she refused to retreat or soften her words. Her message was simple and direct. If a lawsuit comes, she is ready. And with that defiance hanging in the air, the drama surrounding the Sussex story shows no sign of fading anytime soon. Prince Harry has always spoken fiercely about truth, yet contradictions shadow his stories, turning allies into foes and institutions into targets. What drives this cycle? And how do past choices shape the controversies that keep the world watching? When silence speaks loudest. Few public figures speak about truth as fiercely as Prince Harry, yet critics often point out a strange pattern in the stories surrounding him. In his own words and in the pages of his memoir Spare, accusations fly in every direction. Friends become enemies, institutions become villains, and the press becomes the ultimate culprit. Yet observers have repeatedly noted the irony. Many of the actions he condemns are the very tactics he himself has used. It is a contradiction that continues to puzzle commentators and legal experts alike. One of the most striking responses came from royal commentator Lady Colin Campbell. Her tone, according to those who listened closely, carried none of the drama often seen in televised debates. Instead, she spoke with the careful precision of someone who understands how courts operate. When the possibility of legal action was raised, something Harry has not hesitated to threaten in the past, her answer was almost calm. She seemed to know that the moment a courtroom door opens, every statement becomes part of the permanent public record. Across the Atlantic, investigative biographer Tom Bauer responded in nearly the same spirit. Known for his relentless research, Bauer did not appear alarmed by the idea of litigation. Quite the opposite. His message was simple. The material he works with, sources, documents, testimonies, does not vanish simply because someone applies legal pressure. To him, a courtroom is not a threat, but a stage where evidence speaks louder than reputation. Legal analysts who studied the situation pointed out something important. Defamation law demands proof. If a lawsuit were filed, the person bringing the claim would need to demonstrate clearly that the statements were false. That process, called discovery, can be unforgiving. It requires emails, records, timelines, and conversations to be revealed, sometimes stretching back years. For someone who has spent enormous effort protecting privacy, the risk of such exposure could be enormous. Ironically, the public has been watching this standoff with growing curiosity. Online discussions exploded with a surprising refrain, people urging the case to go to court. Their reasoning was simple. In a courtroom, media strategy holds little power. Carefully worded press releases, social media campaigns, and sympathetic interviews fade into the background. Instead, witnesses answer questions under oath, and every detail must stand on its own. Meanwhile, observers noticed another small but telling detail. The usually active online presence associated with Meghan Markle seemed unusually quiet in recent weeks. Just weeks earlier, posts highlighting new projects and personal achievements had appeared frequently. Then, suddenly, the stream slowed to silence. For some, that silence may mean nothing. For others, it signals the calm before a moment when stories, reputations, and carefully guarded secrets might finally face the bright, unavoidable light of a courtroom. Prince Harry and Meghan once shared their truth with the world on Oprah, promising openness. But what triggered this new legal storm, and how did past revelations lead to questions no one expected? The question that won't disappear. This is the same couple who once sat before Oprah Winfrey and spoke about truth, openness, and the pain of being unheard. During that famous television conversation in March 2021, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle described a life inside the royal system where they felt silenced. They promised honesty and insisted their story deserved to be told. Yet today, the conversation around them has taken a strange turn. Two writers are asking difficult questions, and instead of answers, there are warnings of legal action. One of those writers is Tom Bower, known for examining powerful figures through documents and research. The other voice raising questions is Lady Colin Campbell. Their claims revolve around an issue that sounds simple, but carries enormous weight within the British monarchy: the rules of royal succession. For centuries, the tradition guiding inheritance of the crown has been clear. Under long-standing constitutional principles, royal heirs must be born of the body. In simple terms, it means a direct biological birth connected to royal blood. The rule is older than modern politics and is considered one of the pillars of legitimacy within the monarchy. Remove that foundation, and the structure of succession becomes uncertain. Because of this, the questions raised about Prince Archie of Sussex and Princess Lilibet of Sussex have drawn attention far beyond social media gossip. If any of these claims were ever proven in a legal setting, the consequences would reach deep into constitutional territory. Quiet discussions among legal experts have reportedly explored what such a challenge might mean for the royal line. Meanwhile, silence from King Charles III and the palace has been striking. The official response has remained the familiar phrase, "They do not engage in speculation." It is a statement that appears calm on the surface, yet many observers believe it leaves just enough room for interpretation. What makes the situation even more noticeable is the contrast with the children of Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales. Their family life is regularly seen in photographs and public events. Smiles, school runs, and balcony appearances create an image of closeness that reinforces their place within the royal story. By comparison, glimpses of Archie and Lilibet remain rare. Some palace insiders say this distance may be protective or strategic. Others wonder if it simply reflects a different path chosen by their parents. Yet across interviews, comment sections, and television debates, the same suggestion keeps resurfacing. According to both Bower and Lady Campbell, a single step could close the entire debate. A straightforward DNA confirmation, they argue, would answer every question in a single afternoon. Supporters say such proof would silence critics permanently. Skeptics believe it would end months of speculation that continue to swirl around the Sussex narrative. Until that moment arrives, if it ever does, the mystery remains suspended between silence, suspicion, and a question that refuses to fade. Silence has shrouded Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in mystery, yet each legal warning and sharp rebuttal sparks more questions. What secrets lie behind their guarded responses, and why does the truth remain so elusive? The silence behind the spotlight. Silence can sometimes speak louder than any confession. In recent months, the quiet surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle has grown heavier, leaving observers with more questions than answers. Each day that passes without clear explanations only deepens the curiosity. Instead of openness, the public has witnessed legal warnings, cease and desist letters, and sharp responses to critics. Ironically, these reactions have only intensified suspicion. Many now wonder whether the truth is something the couple simply cannot afford to reveal. Investigative writer Tom Bower has been among the most outspoken voices examining the situation. His view is blunt. The Sussexes' financial future rests almost entirely on their public image. For years, that image has been carefully crafted. The brave royal rebels, the devoted parents, the humanitarian couple who stepped away from palace life in search of independence. Yet that story, according to critics, is beginning to show cracks. And every crack threatens the very foundation of their brand. When Prince Harry and Meghan stepped back from royal duties in 2020 and moved to Montecito, California, the move was presented as the beginning of a new chapter. Deals with companies like Netflix promised global storytelling and creative freedom, but several commentators now argue that the expected flow of projects and profits has slowed dramatically. Podcasts have faded from the headlines, television projects appear uncertain, and questions about long-term income have grown louder. Lady Colin Campbell has described the situation in stark terms. According to her interpretation, Meghan once believed Harry possessed a vast personal fortune, perhaps hundreds of millions. What she reportedly discovered instead was a prince whose finances had long been tied to the institution he later criticized. That realization, critics say, may have changed everything. Another claim often repeated in royal commentary traces the story further back. Around 2013, after the collapse of a previous marriage, Meghan was reportedly searching for new opportunities and connections in Britain. Some observers argue she was drawn to the world of influence and recognition surrounding the royal family. Yet the relationship, others note, may not have been one-sided. Prince Harry himself had long struggled with feelings of being overshadowed within the monarchy. For him, Meghan's global visibility and modern image might have offered a chance to redefine his own relevance. Whatever the motivations, both figures now find themselves locked into a powerful but dangerous dynamic. The spotlight that once lifted them has become impossible to escape. They need attention to maintain their platform, yet the same attention now fuels criticism and investigation. Meanwhile, tensions continue to rise in unexpected places. Legal battles involving Samantha Markle have moved into depositions, constitutional lawyers have quietly monitored developments, and critics such as Tom Bower remain undeterred by threats of lawsuits. Lady Colin Campbell's response has been particularly striking. 3 bold words repeated again and again: "Let him sue me." For now, the palace remains silent. But in the world watching from afar, the questions are only growing louder. So, what do you think triggered Meghan's shocking surrogacy revelation and looming lawsuit? Could this change everything we know? We'd like to hear your thoughts. Don't forget to like and share.